Bonjour and bonsoir, dear friends. From the fabulous Red Room, this is JCB Live, Happy Hour. And this is going to be one of the most happy hour because we're going to be with an amazing man. His name is Kent Rathbun. He is one of the best chefs that the United States have ever seen. He started in the kitchen with his mother at the age of 14. He knew what he wanted to do, and he became one of the most charismatic and one of the most charming and talented chefs in the history of the country. He's never lived this fabulous place of Texas, a place we love, we adore, and we're going to be with him in his kitchen because he's going to give us the tutorial on the art of grilling and cooking. He owns an unbelievable destination named the Abacus, which is one of the top restaurants in the whole United States. He was a big contestant on the Iron Chef. He's going to tell us all about that great story. And very importantly, he is surrounded with a fabulous wife who is as well a big operator in the world of food and wine. So he owns multiple places. He will tell us all about it. Dear friends, let's welcome Ken Rathbun. Woo!
Hello, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the very, very nice introduction. I am so excited to be here and I cannot wait to get started.
Well, Kent, we got to start as we always do when we see each other with a glass of bubbles.
Yep. I just happen to have one right here, in fact, and I have an empty glass. So let me just get this.
I've seen you drinking outside of the bottle directly, so you could do that too.
Yeah, I can do that too. Let me see. Should we make this a quiet one, Jean-Charles?
No, loud, as loud as you can.
There we go. How about that?
Very good.
This is nice and chilled, and I am so thrilled to be drinking this. In fact, I just want to say that as I saw you begin to appear in the Red Room, I mentioned to you that I have been fortunate enough a number of times to be out at some of the wineries in Napa. And I've been in the Red Room for some wonderful, wonderful tastings. And I just want to thank you for having me again on the show. This is going to be so much fun. Cheers.
Well, we're very honored to have you. And thank you. Where are you right now in this amazing, spectacular setting?
Well, so I'm in my backyard, actually. We are so fortunate today in Dallas, Texas. It's about 75 degrees and absolutely gorgeous. There's a slight breeze. The sun is out. There's not a cloud in the sky, and it couldn't be a more perfect day to be out here cooking and drinking a little JCB number 21.
Well, thank you so much. Well, I love your backyard. Maybe when I come back to Texas, we should do an event at your house. It's amazing.
I'm not sure if maybe is the word. I think it's a must. I think we have to do that.
Absolutely, and vice versa. Whenever you want to come west, you know what I've dreamt when I heard about your elk story. Shall we start with that one because this is a very fun story you did on Top Chef?
Well, it's actually it was Iron Chef, and it was an interesting time for my brother and I. We battled against Bobby Flay, and our ingredient was elk. And I'll tell you a little bit of the background of the story, which is probably something I shouldn't be talking about, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. This is kind of top secret news. So, you know, a lot of people ask me, how live is the show? How many tapes, how many takes do they do of different episode parts, and so whenever they reveal the ingredient, we see the ingredient for the first time at that moment. But then over the next 5 to 7 minutes, they do 2 or 3 more takes of that reveal, and we have to, we have to give our surprise look. So during those several takes, I was mentioning to my brother that I saw all the pieces of elk that we would need to do the dishes that we were thinking about doing. And I was just going to grab them and go. And one of the producers was listening to me, and he said, Chef, he said, you really must grab this whole chunk of elk. And just so you remember, I mean, just so I can set the stage, the table of elk had 6 quarters of elk. So 3 pieces on each side, stacked really high with this massive pile of antlers on the top. And then the 2 other quarters of elk were boned out, trimmed out, and then kind of stuck in here and there. And so the producer said, it'd be great if you grabbed one of those big chunks of elk. Okay. I don't know if you've ever seen an elk, John Charles.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Elks are a little bigger than deer. Okay. So anyway, when we finally started the match, I went over and grabbed a piece of elk, and I think this thing probably weighed literally 150 pounds. Okay. I mean, it was massive. And so I'm a big guy. So I carried this thing across the kitchen and slammed it down on my cutting board and started cutting.
You started cutting right on the show.
I started cutting right on the show, right there. I mean, right there. And so what was interesting is that I heard the host of the show talking about Bobby Flay needing to get back in the gym. And I started laughing. I was kind of wondering what that was all about. And I looked over, and Bobby had tried the same trick. He didn't make it. His chunk of elk hit the ground in the first 10 seconds of the show. So that was a pretty famous moment for me. And in fact, I'll tell you another quick story to go along with this. Later in my restaurant, we got an opportunity to host one of the producers of Iron Chef America later, several months before we aired the show, by the way. And he was telling me about, how awesome the show was. And he was telling all his friends at the table, this is the guy that beat Bobby Flay. This is the guy that's, going to go down in history as one of the greatest Iron Chefs ever. And I was laughing because we were all under a sort of a gag order. Anyway, later did I find out that moment where I'm carrying the elk was on a special for Iron Chef America called the Top 10 Most Memorable Moments. So not only did we win the match, and it aired in a beautiful time frame, and we had a lot of viewership, but we also got onto the special. So it was kind of a double whammy for my brother and I. And I tell you, it was a game-changing day for him and I both, in careers and personal appearances and everything. I mean, it was a fantastic day. So we were proud to be there and proud to win.
Wow, this is an amazing story. I'm going to have another toast for you. On the fabulous, you're having the JCB, I'm having the LVE with our friend John Legend. So between two legends, John and you on TV winning against Bobby Flay, cheers and congratulations.
Cheers.
So tell us about your motivation to know so early what you wanted to do in life, because this is quite amazing, Kent. You are 14 and you said, that's what I want to do. And I know a lot of our friends with us today always look for that wow moment in other people's and get inspired by it. So how did that work for you?
I grew up in Kansas City with a mother and a father that both loved cooking and both loved entertaining. My mother, she was a maitre d' when I turned 14. Well, first of all, when I was born, as soon as I could remember my mother going to work, I remember that she was a server in restaurants, and she worked in really nice restaurants. So what was really nice about that for my brother and I is that we got to visit restaurants that quite honestly, none of my friends even knew existed. And my mother was, working in these restaurants. My dad would take us for dinner, and it would be a fantastic experience for us. And so as she kind of rose in her career from a server to a manager to a, like dining room manager to a food and beverage director, then she became a maitre d' of the top French restaurant in Kansas City. The name of the restaurant was called Le Bon Auberge. Yeah. And when you add to the fact that my mother was a female in a time where there were no other females on the floor in French restaurants as captains. I mean, they were all men.
That's right.
And, this was back in, the early 70s. Okay. And I will tell you that the other thing that made her pretty awesome was she was 6'3". So she was very memorable, and she was quite the entertainer. And then my dad had been a jazz musician early in his life and spent a lot of time in the kitchens when he was on the road doing these, band tours.
Yeah.
We had just all the time great parties. We entertained all the time. We had live bands in the basement of our house. There was always great food cooking. And so I was experiencing great food and learning how to cook with my parents at like 4 and 5 years old. But it was when I was 14, I took my first job at a restaurant called Sambo's, which is very similar to what you all would know now as Denny's.
Yeah.
And started out as a dishwasher, and that very first night, I went and asked the chef that came on at night at 10 o'clock. I said, if you'll show me some things about how to cook, I'll stay and help you. And I think he thought that was a pretty good opportunity. And within 2 weeks or 3 weeks, maybe, I was cooking on the schedule with the other cooks. And so that's how I got started.
Well, congratulations. Hey, you seized your opportunity. You worked for free for a while just to
I
learn
did.
the ropes, and then he gave you an opportunity on the line. That's pretty impressive.
I
So
think,
at
unfortunately,
14,
Charles, I'm still working for free sometimes.
well, we all. So as we keep talking, I think you should tell us what you're planning to do today because we're looking at you with your amazing setting and your incredible kitchen. We're looking at the outdoor, that very peaceful, natural environment. What are you thinking to show us and teach us?
Well, first of all, I loved grilling. I love cooking outside. And as I said, I grew up in Kansas City with a dad who loved to cook. And of course, Kansas City is known for steaks and beautiful meats. And so I thought it'd be interesting today to choose a dry aged piece of meat. This is a dry aged ribeye. And I want to talk a little bit about the differences. Are you familiar with the differences between like choice and prime and dry aged meats?
No, please tell us all about it because we all want to learn from the master.
Well, so many people don't know. Really, they kind of understand dry age. They've heard it, but they don't really know what it means necessarily. But for all practical purposes, I would think that most people that are watching this program are going to want to be at least buying choice meats when they're cooking at home because they're a very high quality product. But as they go up the line a little bit, you get then to prime, which is even nicer and more marbled and usually more tender than choice. And then you get to Wagyu, which is a completely different breed. And then you get to dry aged pieces of meat. And what happens here with this, the dry aged piece of meat is the way this all works is they take the whole strip or the whole ribeye or the whole tenderloin and they put it in a walk in refrigerator that is basically set up and designed to dry age meat. And that means that there's UV light inside. There is a certain temperature achieved inside, and there's a certain humidity achieved inside. And that is all in the process of trying to grow a certain bacteria around the outside of the meat.
Aha.
So what happens is when you have dry aged meat, you take it out of the plastic bag. So right away, all of the juices that come out of a piece of meat in a big plastic bag, they go in the trash can. So right away, it becomes more expensive. And let's say, for instance, you take a whole ribeye that might weigh 18 pounds, and you put it into a dry age unit and you dry
Yep.
age it for 60 days. Well, it's quite possible that that thing could lose 20% of its weight. So
Wow, that's a lot.
now what you've paid for is now 20% less yield right out of the gate, and you haven't even trimmed it yet. So the dry age process is all about making the meat more tender, more flavorful, and for sure it's more flavorful. And in fact, it gets very, very earthy. And some people think that dry aged meat almost tastes like it's starting to spoil, but unfortunately for them, and fortunate for me, and maybe you, this is exactly what we're looking for with prime dry aged meat. We want that flavor that's very nutty, very earthy. It's beautiful. And so it's got a very distinct flavor. There's also one other grade I want to just mention real quick. In between the choice and prime, at the top 10% of all choice meat is what we call CAB, and that's called certified Angus beef. And so years ago, when we had so many steakhouses around the country that are serving prime meats and choice meats, we just had to figure out a way to find some place in the middle that we could grade certain meats because we were just not getting enough prime to serve the needs. So CAB is the top 10% of choice. It's right
Yep.
under prime, and it's a beautiful piece of meat. So what I'm going to do real quickly.
Well,
Uh,
thank you for that explanation, Ken.
yeah,
Extremely well said. Maybe I should put myself in a plastic bag so I'm going to lose 20% of my weight, which I need to do before the holidays.
so I'll tell you what, Jean-Charles, let me tell you just a couple of points about setting the grill, and then I would love to hear you talk about the wine before we get ready to cook. Is that okay?
Absolutely. But please,
Awesome.
we all want to see you in full action. We've got the the most amazing pro in front of us. So this is such a privilege.
Well, I have a beautiful Lynx grill here,
Yeah.
and this is a fantastic gas grill. And so if you're cooking on wood with charcoal or wood, that's fine. If you're cooking with gas, that's fine as well. What I've done with the gas grill is there's 3 burners. I've set the one on the left, on my left over here.
Yeah.
I've set that at completely high. The one in the middle is right in the middle, and then the one over here is very low. The reason I do that is because I really believe that you need to have a place to go with a piece of meat or a piece of fish after you've seared it really nicely so that it doesn't burn, but it still can sit and finish and roast slowly and all of that. So you want to have a place on your grill that's a little cooler. In the
Okay.
case of a wood grill or a charcoal grill, you want to just build the fire on one side of the grill so that when you've charred it really nice, you have a place to put it where it's not so hot. Okay, so that's what we did there. The first step is to light the grill in plenty of time and make sure that it's plenty hot. And believe it or not, that sounds elementary, but people don't do it all the time.
Yeah.
Second step is to clean the grill really, really well.
Yeah.
Third step is to decide ultimately where you're going to cook. And in this case, I have all kinds of ranges, so I don't need to do that. I can just move the meat. The fourth step is to oil the grill, which I'm going to do right now. And this is as easy as this. I have some grapeseed oil right here, and I have an old kitchen towel. And I'm just going to oil this up a little bit, okay? And I'm just going to walk over here, and basically I'm just going to oil the grill where I'm going to drop the steak. It cleans it up, and it makes it lubricated a little bit.
Wow, what a beautiful setup you have. Magical.
So I'm not sure. I think you guys ought to be able to see how hot the left-hand side of the grill is.
Yeah.
So this is an infrared burner. We call it a Trident burner. And it is really, really hot. In fact, with all 3 of these burners on high, this grill will run about 750 degrees. So that's kind of where we want to be. Now, while we're waiting for that to kind of catch its heat back again, which won't take long, I'm going to go ahead and season this up real quick. Uh-oh, I spilled a little champagne. That is a travesty.
Well, you may want to put a little bubbles on the searing of it. I'm going to serve some Pinot because, we need a little bit of red as well, as you're
Oh, for
tempting
this
us with
steak.
red wine. Oof. So I'm serving one of our wines and wineries in Sonoma. You have not seen them, Wattle Creek. And it's a beautiful transformative label. This is that great label, which is all butterflies. And it's a Pinot Noir that I just want you to see. And not yet with the meat. I think with the meat, we have a Cabernet as well, which will be richer, denser, more opulent and powerful, which will go very well with the food. But just as a lighter version of red, just to engage ourselves, I'm toasting to you and your beautiful demonstration there. So what is it as you're preparing it, to have a fabulous wife in the restaurant world and together running the most amazing operation in Texas? Tell us about that.
Well, I'm blessed and I'm lucky. She is a fabulous lady. She's beautiful. She's very smart. And she and her partner, Lene Faring, have built great businesses. And, I've been there to help, but I've been telling you, they did it. And they have opened restaurants that are phenomenal restaurants in Dallas. And for that matter, I think some of the best in Texas. And we're a restaurant family. We work all the time. We have the same clientele. We have the same friends. And, as you know, in the restaurant business, I'm sure the same in the wine business, we're so busy that we cherish the time together as opposed to worried about being together too much. And so this is how it all works out for us,
Well, and Kent, we have exactly the same type of setup. My lovely wife Gina makes wine, as you know, with the Gallo family. So, and I make wine on our side, so it's the same. We have very focused discussions, and it's when we have the time together that what we cherish, rather than spending too much time together and not enjoying it as much. So,
agreed.
Same way.
Well, and by the way, I want to thank you and Gina both for all of your participation with the Tasty NFL and what you do for the Hunger Links around America. I've been I've represented the Dallas Cowboys at the Super Bowl at the
Yes,
KC NFL for nearly 30 years, and I know you guys have been a part of that forever.
for sure.
And we just appreciate it. Thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you. And it's such a great program. I mean, is there anything better? Wineries, phenomenal restaurant, charismatic chef, phenomenal football player, all get together for one cause, feeding hungry. I mean, that's
Exactly,
one of the best thing to do.
for sure. So
So that
go
show
ahead,
us
go
that
right ahead.
meat. No, no, please. It's looking beautiful there.
Well, I want to kind of season this up and get ready to cook, and then I'm going to kick it back to you. We can talk about the wine, and then when you're ready to tell me to cook, we're going to put up a timer so people can kind of get a sense of how long this steak takes to cook. But right now, what I've done is I've oiled the steak with a little bit of grapeseed oil, and right now I'm going to season it pretty heavily with a season that I actually make. I actually have a line of seasonings here that I have developed, and we use them in our kitchens, and I use them in my kitchen at home, and we have a number of different seasoning. This particular one is a garlic chop salt that simply has, garlic, cracked black pepper, and kosher salt. And I like a little extra pepper, so I'm going to kind of hit that with just a little pepper grinder. And then remember earlier, Jean-Charles, I told you about my dad loving to cook and growing up in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So I want to tell you about a recipe and this is his recipe. My dad's name was Max, and he was a great cook. But my dad used to do this steak just like I've done, a little bit of, canola oil, grapeseed oil. And then he would season it with garlic, cracked black pepper, and salt. But there was one addition that he would use, and that's dried Italian seasoning from the spice shelf. And this is a blend of dried basil, dried chives, dried thyme, and dried parsley. And,
Wow.
as a chef, I grew up and I'm thinking, okay, we use fresh herbs in the kitchen, and why would you ever use dry herbs like this on a beautiful piece of meat? But I can tell you, whenever I cook this steak, the smell, just the smell of this jar open and the smell that I get coming off of the grill, it brings me right back to my dad. It brings me right back to growing up in Kansas City. And there's something about this dried spice on this steak that's phenomenal. So this is the final add. And he was very, very, very insistent that we only did it on one side, and we always had to rub it like this onto the steak. And then he always wanted it kind of pressed in there. Okay. So,
beautiful. And why one side?
well, he never could tell me. But because it was such a great steak, I didn't want to change the recipe. so that's as simple as it gets. So I have the steak ready to go. I do want to talk about this little piece of fruit that I have. Etrog, right?
Etrog.
So I'm going to ask Jerry to talk to you about the etrog. As long as I've been cooking my whole life, I've never seen one of these. It looks like any other kind of wrinkly lemon, but it's called an etrog. By the way, this little guy was $6. Not sure if it's worth it. We'll find out together. But Jerry, tell him a little bit about this. And guys, I'm sorry about the background noise. We got a neighbor going on. I hope that's not too cumbersome.
No, we're going to hear the grill soon. It's going to be much better.
Well, basically, you guys, an etrog is classified as a citrus medica, and they're an ancient type of citrus that has been cultivated since biblical times and are primarily grown for traditional Jewish rituals. And they say that they can cost up to $100. And these people, after they use them in a prayer ritual, they will cover them with these claws and put them in gold boxes to store them. This is a very big deal fruit, and Kent's just going to use it for juice.
Yeah, well,
I don't know about this.
Listen, I love a little lemon. I love Italy, and I love to go to Italy, and lemon is one of my favorite things from Italy. And so what I've done is I put a little bit of lemon zest on here. And then I also want to talk about something I have in the grill already that I snuck in on you. Maybe you didn't see it. I have just a little bit of herb butter that I made last night for this little demonstration, but this is a compound butter that I melted down. It's got garlic, shallots, it's got rosemary, fresh lemon, it's got cracked black pepper, and it's got a lot of lemon juice in it. And so what I'm going to do here is I have a beautiful bread bowl that's been made with, you can see that I took a little snack off of here.
Of course.
The
chef's got a taste.
Yeah. This has been made with Gruyere cheese. And so I thought, this might be a pretty good little steak sandwich. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to,
You're going to make us starve on the other side watching.
Yeah. So I'm going to brush a little bit of herb butter here.
Yeah. The butter you did it last night, is it better to do it the day before?
Well, for this, it doesn't really matter unless you're going to use the herb butter in a fashion that I want to talk about real quick. In fact, let me get it out of the refrigerator. I want to show you real quick.
Yeah. What a great, phenomenal step-by-step process.
So after we make the herb butter, we take it and put it in some plastic, and then we roll it up, tighten it up on each end, and we make a log out of it. Once this sets up in a freezer or a refrigerator, then you can just cut a slice off of it and lay it on top of a steak and melt it. So it's easy to use. It's something you refreeze. It lasts for quite a while, and it's really a great way to do it. So for this, we've already got it kind of melted out for the bread. So, well, in fact, I'm going to wait to do that until you're ready to go with the wine.
We're ready to go. I'm just going to tell you briefly what I served was the Pinot Noir Sonoma Coast from Wattle Creek. And Sonoma Coast being that amazing place, cool nights, warmer days, absolutely beautiful on the edge of the Pacific Ocean, goes very well. Just in between, maybe as we nibble on the bread, we nibble on cheese as we're preparing this amazing dish, because afterwards we're going to go with a serious cab. So I think it's all you. You're looking so grand in the frame of the Zoom here. It's looking fabulous. Well, I want to be there right along with you.
Well, maybe that's our next one.
Absolutely.
Maybe we need to do this together.
Oh, I cannot wait.
All right. So I just want to recap the steak real quick. So we just did a little canola oil. I use actually grapeseed oil, but canola oil, grapeseed oil, and peanut oil are the oils that I normally use on something like this, because they work real well on our very hot grill. Olive oil is not your friend until the end. We don't want to use olive oil cooking because it kind of flares up, but at the end we can use it as a finishing oil, and it works great.
That's right.
Then I've used my steak and chop salt, okay, and it's one of my seasonings. So I have steak and chop. I have a sticky pig sauce, which is a really cool barbecue spice with lots of brown sugar. I have a lemon pepper with rosemary. I have a barbecue rub that's really great for briskets, chicken, anything like that. And then, of course, the steak and chop salt, again, is the number one thing. We then finished it with a little bit of Italian seasoning and a little bit of the zest from the etrog. I'm telling you, I just found this 2 hours ago. I'm not kidding.
And you got a deal, because I heard it could go up to $100. So you got it for $6. It was a good price.
Listen, if that's true, and I'm going to research that, I'm going back tonight and buying the rest of them. Okay, could be an investment. All right, so now we're set up on the grill. We've cleaned it, we've oiled it, we've scrubbed it. It's hot enough. Now we're getting ready to put our steak on, and we're gonna start our timer. You want to start the timer? There you go. And this is going to give you a little bit of an idea of how long this is going to take. Okay. Now, the other thing I want to point out is I also have a chamber that we have some wood chips in.
Yeah.
I'm going to put in here, and the wood chips are going to start to smolder. And the wood chips are going to give me smoke in a gas grill. Now, how cool is that?
Oh, I love it.
That gives you, if you have the gas grill and you want that beautiful smoke flavor, that gives everybody out there that's in that situation a really, really good alternative. And you get a little smoke flavor. It's really nice. It smells great out in the backyard. It's fantastic. So I want to
But
talk
it's a
about one
good.
more thing here. I have a little blue cheese, and this is from Carr Valley Dairy in Wisconsin. It's called Wildfire Blue. It's a spicy blue cheese, and my friend Sid Cook, who owns the dairy up there, which, by the way, Sid is he's the owner of Carr Valley, but he also is probably, in fact, I think he is the most decorated cheesemaker in the world. He's won
Wow.
more competitions in cheese making than anyone else, and the cheese is fantastic. And occasionally, he and I do some things like this. In fact, Jean Charles, maybe Sid and you and I should get together.
Of
I'm
course.
thinking steaks,
Absolutely.
wine, cheese. I don't know. Is there a better combo than that? I don't know.
I think that's the dream triptych.
Absolutely. All right, now I'm going to put the bread on.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that on the middle where it's not quite so hot. And I'm going to ask Chris, who's controlling our board here, to give me a little time on it. Where are we looking on the time? Minute 49. So give me 2.5 minutes. And at 2.5 minutes, we're going to quarter the steak so we get those beautiful lines on there. Because as you know, Jean Charles, you eat with your eyes first, and it's got to be beautiful. And you know what I tell people is if you're serving food that's really gorgeous, no matter how good it tastes, you get cred right up front for that, and we can charge a little more money for that, and that's good in the restaurant. Those lines are worth an extra $5 on that steak. You know what I mean?
Coming from you, I would pay an extra 10 even.
So here's where we're at. We have our steak going. We got just about 20 seconds before we're going to quarter it. I'm gonna do some lemon juice over the top of it with olive oil at the end. We're gonna put our blue cheese up here. We've already got our toast going. We're ready. I just seen another sip of JCB.
Bubble. Hey, tell me, how do you get your inspiration of constantly bring new recipe to light or adding on an amazing dish like this one, all those great ideas and innovation? What's your source of inspiration?
Well, I can say my number one source is travel, which unfortunately for the last year I haven't done a whole lot of because of the crazy world we live in. But I could tell you that my wife and I, our gift to each other every year is travel. We travel to Italy. We travel to the Orient. We travel to Mexico. We travel everywhere we can. And our sole purpose is to enjoy the culture, which starts with food. Food, wine, architecture, everything about the place that we are in, we absorb, we love it, and it's my number one source of inspiration. I love it. I'm going to quarter the steak, though, real quick. One sec.
Yeah, we don't want it to burn. Wow, look at this. Magnificent.
Oh, yeah. So you can start to see now that the wood chips are starting to smolder. It only takes a couple of minutes. And now the inside of the grill is going to start to fill up with this fantastic wood smoke. And right now I'm using hickory. And in fact, Lynx, they make the chamber. They also make a number of different types of wood that they can put in there. And so you get some different flavor profiles. And I can smell the Italian seasoning. I wish you were here to smell this. And by the way, I want to point out that all of these spices are all available on my website at chefkentrathbun.com. And I would love for you to visit and check out what we're doing. And for sure, if you're in Dallas, come and see us. If you travel to Dallas, I want you to come and see us. And I want to say that before I get a piece of steak in my mouth, because while you're talking, I'm going to be eating.
Well, very important that you all go to Chef Kent website because unbelievable destination. Now, quick question here. Have you ever tried as wood staves from the barrels? Because after 4 years, we retire our barrels. And instead of doing planters that people enjoy or furniture, or even selling it to the bourbon and the whiskey people, it would be fun to cook with it.
Well, in fact, I have, and you are exactly right. I mean, the flavor that comes off of wine staves. In fact, I'll bet you know Jim Clendenin from Avant Comont Winery,
Very
who
well,
also
of
does
course.
fantastic Pinot Noirs. My brother and I both did a dinner with him at the winery, and all I had was wood staves from the barrel. and I was
That's right.
amazed at how wonderful they taste. So if we come out there, I'm not sure if I'm going to ask you to load up a bunch of wood and bring with you, Jean Claude, because I mean, if you come to Dallas, that might be a little cumbersome. But if I come to Napa, I want to cook on some barrels.
Deal.
Okay.
Absolutely. We have amazing staves. And you know, there's a few chefs, great one in France specifically, who does as well a roasted chicken. And I'm thinking Georges Blanc, you know, from Burgundy, very awarded chef like you, 3-star Michelin, who's been doing for 47 years a recipe out of staves and even the cuttings from the vines, because it adds a very unique, different wood characteristics to it. So it would be fun to play with that because we have it in our wines anyhow. So the pairing.
I'm not cooking with anything else when I come. That sounds
Perfect.
great.
I'll put the barrels on the side. Wow, look at
All
this.
right. So our toast is looking good. Now I'm going to go ahead and shut off the two sides of the grill that aren't underneath the steak. The steak is going to continue to cook for a minute. Where are we at on our time?
Well, we good. A few more minutes. I want to ask you a question though, Kent, on a very unique moment in your life. And I think it's great to share it and to share how you recovered from it, because you had a major incident.
Oh,
Where, talking about, you know, roasting ribs, you damage a few ribs of your body, and it was a big challenge for you. And many people, obviously, during the time we live in, are going through tough time themselves or friends. What happened, and how did you recover from it, and how it made you even a stronger person?
well, that's I'm gonna condense the story a little bit because it could be a long story, but I'm gonna give you the clef notes. I was doing some work with a Texas Wagyu beef ranch
Yeah.
in Marfa, Texas, which is way west and way south. And in fact, my wife and my daughter and myself were with the owner of the ranch, his wife, and two other people on a Polaris, and we were just touring the ranch. And my wife and my daughter and I were sitting on a high hunting seat, which raised above the back and was kind
Yeah,
of way up. And you've probably seen them on different kinds of vehicles. And we were
for
going up
sure.
the side of a mountain, and for whatever reason, the seat released, and we tipped over. And by the way, the seat's probably already 7 feet or 8 feet in the air, and
Wow.
we tipped over and fell backwards. I landed on a boulder on my back, and my daughter landed on me, thank goodness, because she barely even got dirty, so she didn't get hurt at all. But she did crush my chest, and I tell her that all the time. Trust me, she owes me.
She crushed your heart all the time, of
She
course. That's
crushed
your
my heart.
daughter.
No, seriously, I was happy to take the brunt. Tracy had a pretty bad cut on her head, but she was pretty good. I, on the other hand, after it was all counted up, I had 22 ribs broken.
Oof.
5 of my ribs were broken twice, so in total I had 27 fractures. I broke my spine in 4 places, and 2 of the places that it was broken was unstable, which meant that if I'd have made a wrong move at any time, I could have been paralyzed for life, which thank God I didn't.
And now you're dancing.
And now I'm dancing. I lacerated my kidney. I collapsed the lung. And on top of all that, I landed in a pile of fire ants, which I'm highly allergic to.
Wow.
And then on top of all that, we were in the desert with no cell phone signal. We were 30 minutes inside this ranch, which was all very, very mountainous and very, it was desert. And so by the time that I got to a hospital was 3.5 hours later.
Oh.
Before I got back to Dallas to a trauma center, it was 30 hours. There were 9 ambulance rides and 2 care flights. And I'm a very lucky person to even be standing here talking to you today.
That's amazing. So how did it make you stronger than ever?
Well, I think number one, and I think we're all going through kind of a crazy time with this COVID deal. The number one thing I think that I sort of looked at differently is the time I spend with the people I love and the people I care about.
Yeah.
You know, I work hard. You know, our business is crazy. We always work like crazy, but I try to make time for people. And most of all, and I know that you're going to appreciate what I'm about to say, you know, in this business, we see and run into so many people, and we throw out sometimes those comments that they're just niceties sometimes. Hey, let's get together for lunch. Hey, let's have a glass of wine. Hey, let's go to dinner.
Yeah.
And sometimes that doesn't happen. And I really made an effort that if I said that to someone, I tried to follow through with that.
Well done.
And I
I'm
can't
with
do it
you.
all the time because we're still crazy busy, but I make a point to follow up and to do the things that I think will make me and the people around me happy and fulfilled. And I think that's what life is all about. And I think we all need to appreciate life as much as possible. And in this current situation we're in, man, we all need to be careful. We all need to be courteous, and we need to do whatever we can to keep anyone from getting this disease as much as possible.
Yeah. Well said. Wow, great life lessons and great advice. And to focus on priorities that are important to you and to others, and being loyal to those absolute moments. I think it's very important. Well said. Well, we're
Awesome.
delighted to see you in better shape than ever. So
Well,
tell us about that beautiful piece of meat we see here. Ooh,
yes. Well,
I
you
can
know,
feel the smell.
I wish you could smell it. I'm telling you, it smells great here. Uh, Also, I'd like to thank you for asking a question right as I pulled the steak out, because what that allowed me to do was allow the steak to rest, which is our sort of final thing before cutting. You want to always pull a piece of meat out of the oven or off the grill and let it rest for a few minutes before you cut it, because you know meat is a muscle.
Yeah,
When it's hot, it's either in an oven or in a pan or on a grill. It tenses up. It gets very tight, kind of like
for
wine.
sure.
It's tight. Um, so if you let it rest for a few minutes, it relaxes and it has a better mouthfeel, and it's just such a better experience if you let it rest a bit. So the thing you're looking for, if you've ever cut a piece of meat or a turkey or a chicken and the juices ran all over the cutting board, chances are you've
Yeah,
cut it too quick.
I
And so
see.
you want to make sure that you let it rest. So let's see how we've done. I was shooting for medium rare on this guy. So by the way, I want to show you guys. Scott, can you get a little close here? So this little piece of meat on the ribeye, it starts right here. You can see it, and it comes around about right here. Did you know that this is a steak all in itself? It's called the spinalis.
Okay.
And this piece of meat is going to be for the chef. Okay. So I'm going to take a little bite of that. Oh
Ooh.
my gosh.
Well, I'm going to take a bite of the wine then.
Go for it.
Because we're going to let it rest too. It's like beef. If you open a bottle of wine, wait 30, 45 minutes sometimes. Oh,
Isn't it
you not
amazing?
only,
Isn't it amazing the
you
similarities in wine and food?
really much the same, isn't it? Wow, you've achieved your objective. I mean, this is medium rare to the highest level.
It came out very nice.
So 3 minutes on the grill, and then 2 to 3 minutes resting, the same amount on the grill as you rested.
You know,
Correct.
I think it was maybe a little bit more, like 7 minutes on the grill, but it was a pretty
Okay.
thick steak. But yeah, a couple of minutes after we rest it, it's a perfect medium rare. And of course, the thicker the steak, the more that you want to, kind of let it rest. Now I'm going to put a little bit of that Wildfire Blue cheese on here. Let me kind of clean up my board here.
Like,
So I don't know about that, buddy, but I think that's going to go pretty good with that Pinot. Or what do you got? What's the next wine?
well, the next one is the Cabernet from Alexander Valley. So I think it will go very well because of the blue cheese and the 2016 vintage. So we purposely today wanted to feature as well a wine with a little bit of bottle, as we say, a little bit of age. So 4 years is a perfect amount for that soft, minty, ethereal, and lightly oaked, beautiful tannins, which I think will go very well with your smoke oak, or not oak, but smoke wood that you've infused slightly your beef. So I think the two together would be magical. How is it?
Very good. I'm going to brush it. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. That was a pretty good little nibble. Good. I'm going to kind of brush this steak right here with our herb butter.
Yeah.
And I may even, I'm not sure what I want to do first, whether I want to eat the sandwich or just want to eat the piece of meat. For sure, I'm going to enjoy it with some bubbles.
Well, why not bubbles and beef as well? So, Kent, so it doesn't take that long to do this amazing recipe for everyone. And it's a fairly easy, as you demonstrated, as long as you have the right ingredients. So we'll go on your website, buy the herbs and the aromatics, so we can have all that ready. But all in takes what, 30 minutes?
You know what? I think if you start it out, it might take 30 minutes. I mean, the first thing you're going to want to do is fire up your grill, get your steak ready, clean the grill, and I think you can be done in 30 minutes for sure. You know, the other thing I'd tell you, I would love to offer. I'd love to offer the recipe to anybody watching. So
for sure.
I'm going to tell you the best way to do this. Okay, I have a text message following that we use, and it's kind of it's pretty cool. If you just text my name Rathbun, Rathbun, to 888-111 and send it, you'll be on our text message list. And then you'll start to get text messages when we have amazing things like Jean-Charles Boisset coming to Dallas and cooking with me in my home. That kind of thing will be on that text message. And if you put in there that you'd like to have the recipe for this the steak, I'm happy to send it to you. But again, like I said, you can buy all the spices at my website at chefkentrathbun.com. And it's an easy recipe. It's fun to cook. I say spend more time enjoying and less time with work. And I know that with these wines that you're going to suggest, I don't know, you can't have a better evening.
Absolutely. And Ken, before we depart after this amazing time, mention to our friends your restaurant briefly so they know as the world reopens, and I know you are reopened now in Texas.
We are.
Give them a feel about your multiple places.
Yeah, so I'm probably most famous for Abacus Restaurant, which is a restaurant that I opened in 1999. However, I separated from Abacus and Jasper's a few years ago. So after I did that, I opened a new restaurant called Emoto. And Emoto is a Japanese restaurant down near the American Airlines Center, which is where the Mavericks play and the Stars play, our hockey and basketball teams. And then my wife and I together own Emoto. We also together own Shinsei, which is also Japanese and Pan-Asian kitchen. We also have a restaurant called Lover's Seafood Market, which is on Lover's Lane.
Yeah,
that's the name. And it's a beautiful seafood restaurant that specializes in everything from Cajun to Asian to, I mean, we just do seafood from all over the world and really fun dishes. It's got a fantastic patio. I'm also part of a restaurant called Republic, which is kind of a bourbon-centric concept that has a Texas theme. And then the most interesting thing I'm doing right now, and the newest thing, is we do Rathbun's Curbside Barbecue. And Rathbun's Curbside Barbecue is, you talk about what's happened over the past, 9 months or a year with COVID. And you talk about people having to pivot their business and people having to do things new and different than ever before. I think one of the most interesting things about this in a positive way is that it has put a lot of us into a position where we had to make some changes. We had to pivot. And I think it's given us license to do things that we might not have ever done before, because we know that under these circumstances, everything is going to be accepted. Even if it doesn't work well, it's going to be accepted as a try. I mean, we tried something, it didn't work. We tried something and it blew up. When COVID started, we started a curbside barbecue business that has exploded for us. We have
Fantastic.
we have 3 big trailer smokers. We have a 35-foot concession trailer that's basically the rolling restaurant of the company. We roll around the city and we do curbside pickups on Saturday and Sunday. We do catering and special events. And it's not only fun, but it has also been a great way to keep a lot of my guys working. And it has provided income for a lot of my folks that, quite honestly, if we hadn't made the decision to do it, they would have been in trouble. And
Wow.
so
This is a big deal.
yeah, we're very
Talking about
excited
the
about
right,
it.
well, talking about the right definition of pivoting and knowing, how to take another direction and still keep your team and doing something great. This is very impressive.
It was fun.
Congratulations. And now, such great advice. What would be your lasting advice for everyone with us? All around the world, we have friends today watching. So, what message do you want to leave everybody with during the time we live in?
Well, this is coming from my heart and my soul, and it's driven by the accident that I have. I will tell you, cherish your moments, cherish your friends, cherish your family, and do not ever, ever take what we have for granted, because it can be taken from you in a moment. And
Love the advice.
yeah,
Well, that's pretty amazing. Very well said, Kent. And I really so much want to thank you. I know, it's exciting to cook and demonstrate, but your messaging as well is so strong. And your advice and all the emotion you put into what you're doing is fabulous. And to be with us as one of the most amazing awarded chef in the country, we want to thank you so much and cannot wait to do it in person.
pleasure. I can't wait to do it either. Thank you so much. Cheers and bon appetit.
Cheers. And the oak barrels are waiting for you. So come over.